Iran has rejected a statement from Britain, France, and Germany calling for it to refrain from an attack on Israel in retaliation for the recent killing of leaders from both Hamas and Hezbollah. And all of this comes as mediators continue their effort to broker some sort of agreement to end this war against Hamas and to free the hostages that are still held in Gaza by the terrorist group. Well, there's a wild card in all of this that in many ways has gone under the radar, and it's the Chinese Communist Party. They both supply military weapons to Iran, and they purchase huge sums of Iranian oil. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Gordon Chang. He's Distinguished Senior Fellow at the Gatestone Institute. He's also author of The Great U.S.-China Tech War and China is Going to War. And I encourage you to follow him on X under the handle at Gordon G. Chang. Gordon, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you.
Thank you so much, Jody.
Well, listen, this is a pretty big deal. I think in a lot of ways, the Communist Party of China has gone under the radar with all this taking place in the Middle East. But they have been trying to exert their influence. Can you just begin by going over all of that with us? Where does China stand in this whole thing?
China supports Iran. Iran supports Hamas, the Houthi militia, and Hezbollah. And actually, Iran looks like a Chinese proxy. The Chinese certainly think so. You know, you talked about oil. Last year, China took 90% of Iran's oil exports. Iran's oil production last year reached a 5-year high. Iran could not have afforded to attack Israel on October 7th were it not for Chinese money. But it's more than just the money. It's also diplomatic support, propaganda support, and Chinese arms. Iran and all of its terrorist proxies have large quantities of Chinese weapons. So this is a Chinese attack on Israel. People don't look at it that way, but when you start looking at those relationships, it's clear that this is a China-sponsored war.
Yeah, it really is, and that's fascinating. I'll just say it again. I don't think the majority of people understand that. They don't understand China's role in all of this. In fact, they hosted the 14 Palestinian factions in Beijing here recently, announcing some sort of reconciliation pact among them all. But how has the killing of now the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh, how has this killing affected the whole initiative and China's role, in your opinion?
Well, China actually wanted Hamas to take over the Palestinian factions. And that was really the reason behind the Beijing declaration that was signed in the Chinese capital on the 23rd of July. But with the killing of Haniyeh, what it has done is it's thrown Hamas into somewhat of a disarray. Now, they were able to appoint a replacement faster than most people thought, but nonetheless, they're still having problems in Gaza where they're losing control. And that means when China's proxy takes a hit, it means China is also taking a hit because now it really can't take Hamas and sort of put it into the forefront. So this is going to be a scrambled situation. And China right now, I think, is actually goading Iran into attacking Israel. We saw that in the comments of the Chinese foreign minister on Sunday, where he said that Iran had the right to strike Israel because he said Israel had violated Iran's sovereignty. So this is a very serious situation where you got a major power trying to promote more war in the world's most war-torn region.
And I think the significance of all of that, Gordon, really lies in the fact that Iran really does depend heavily upon China for weapons and cash and a host of things. Isn't that true?
Well, certainly, and even more so as time goes on. So what we are seeing is China destabilizing the region. And people might say, well, why would Beijing want to do that? Well, Xi Jinping reveres Mao Zedong, and one of Mao's main foreign policy moves was to create what he called chaos. He wanted chaos because he thought that would lead to worldwide Chinese rule. And so you see Xi Jinping promoting chaos, not only in the Middle East, but also in Ukraine, where he's backing Russia's war, and also in North Africa, where China is fueling insurgencies that look like wars. So you have China fighting proxy wars on 3 separate continents. And this is getting serious because the United States doesn't understand what's going on, and we're not effectively dealing with what China is doing to take down the international system.
Yeah, extremely serious, and it's revealing to see how it's stunning, really, to see how we are not prepared and don't understand what's going on. If I can, I'd love to switch topics on you. We actually dealt with this yesterday, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and that's in regard to Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz. He has had a long-standing and gracefully stated an unusual relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. How concerning is this to you?
This is a great concern. And the reason is, Tim Walz has been to China, he says, about 30 times. Many of these times he was taking high school students to China, and that looked like indoctrination because these trips could not have been approved without the stamp of the Communist Party's United Front Work Department, which is the portion of the Communist Party that deals with foreign countries and with non-communist organizations inside China. So this is the group that tries to subvert everybody. And Tim Walz was perfectly okay with this. Now, you look at Tim Walz's entire record with China, you can sort of justify maybe 1 or 2 items. But when you look at the pattern, this pattern just cannot be explained. So we do not want somebody who is next to the Oval Office with these views and these actions regarding China.
Yeah, it just seems like we are watching one individual after another, major leaders within the Democratic Party, who have these very disturbing relationships with communist China. And I know you follow all of this closely, Gordon, all the propaganda organs and all that sort of stuff. But what is China actually saying about Governor Walz?
They actually sort of like him, from what we can tell. There have been a number of Chinese academics who have spoken to Chinese state media. And although their views aren't official, they do give us an indication of what Beijing is thinking. And these guys are just ecstatic about Walz. And the reason is that they believe that he will take a much different point of view than either Trump or Biden with regard to China. So they think they've got an old friend who is going to be next to the Oval Office, which means that they believe that they can basically determine American foreign policy through Walz.
Now, when you look at all of this through the lens of what you were just talking about with the role of China in Iran, it just seems like our enemies all about. It's frightening to think of our major political leaders cozying up to China. Gordon Chang, as always, it's an honor to have you on the program. Thank you so much for taking time to break all this down for us. Gordon Chang, Distinguished Senior Fellow at the Gatestone Institute. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jody, and it's an honor for me to talk to you, so thank you.